They're here. It's Saturday, and these arrived yesterday, but yesterday, Zach and I were participating in a virtual market, and that kind of took up all of my time and energy, so I didn't even get to look in the box other than opening it to ensure that, yes, in fact, all of the pieces were in here. So now I'm going to show you what we've got, and I'm going to talk about what the plan is. So this is the pattern that I am using. It is the 1870s to 1890s corset pattern from Redthreaded. If you're gonna get a corset pattern and you are of a moderate skill set, I would start with Redthreaded for corset patterns. There are other options, but like, especially for me, since I've never made a corset, this was the direction I wanted to go because they know what they're doing and they have a combination of historical and theatrical techniques, and they have each of them scaled up in different sizes. And then, so that's the pattern we're using, and these are the directions for that over here, so I'm going to be referencing those. I'm not giving away the secrets to their pattern. If you want one, like, you can buy. And then I went on Delicious LLC and got some white domestic couture, and this is just like, it feels like denim, but it's not the stretch denim. It's like the actual, this is old school jeans denim. And white 13-inch busk and some corset lacing so that maybe it won't break because we're using jewelry leather cord. And the nice thing is these have little shoelace aglet things on the end, which is nice because then they're going to be easier to thread through the eyelets. And I got 2 dozen silver eyelets and washers and some bones. I've got some straight steel bones for the very back between the lacing strips and some spiral steel bones. And you can see, like, look at the movement in this. Like, they move like crazy. This is not going to be super uncomfortable. It's just going to give a lot of support. And that's my rant about corsets, is they weren't torture devices. It was the Victorian equivalent of a bra and maybe some Spanx. And the idea was that, and there are plenty of costumers that have gone on about that, the idea was that it was intended to give you the correct silhouette, so the shape that was fashionable at the time. And were there people who tight-laced? Yeah, there were, but they were usually young and fashionable and like surviving garments of women that we have. Like, there's a survival bias. The 18-inch waist usually was from, you know, before you were married, before you had kids. Like, the human body isn't that different. So as far as I am concerned, a corset that you're making for yourself should be as comfortable as wearing a pair of Spanx-ish and a bra. The nice thing is you don't have underwire stabbing you in the underarm or wherever. And ideally, your corset is providing you with back support and posture support that your bra doesn't do. Because, like, just the shape of your bra isn't going to give you back support and posture support. So it should be comfortable. If it is well made and well fitted to you, it should be as comfortable as a tight-fitting garment can be. Like, it shouldn't be uncomfortable. It shouldn't pinch and poke and prod, and that's why we make mock-ups. And I will say, I will probably not make corsets for people because they require so much mock-up. If you're gonna order a commission from me that requires a corset, I'm gonna send you to Redthreaded to go buy a corset because they know what they're doing. But anyway, I'm gonna get started. I'm excited, and my toddler is not asleep. I don't know if you can hear her on the monitor, but I'm gonna hopefully get started. I'm gonna press out the fabric, the couture. This is the couture, and then this is the fashion fabric that I'm using. This is going to be a costuming corset because it's my wearable mock-up. So I'm going to just use some white cotton fabric for the outer layer, just so that the corset has a little bit more like oomph to it. And then I will hopefully get back to you with some progress towards something that looks a little bit more like that. Hi, Zach.
Hello.
Zach is in the process of reboxing Mysterium. which we almost played tonight for game night, but then we decided to go with Arabian Nights. It was fun. It was entertaining. While we were doing that, last time I checked in, I was gonna trace out my pattern pieces and I was gonna cut them out and start working on the corset. Then I remembered I need to wash the coutil so that the corset is washable, because if this is gonna be a cosplay corset that I'm wearing with costumes to cons in July and August and early September, I need to be able to wash it. And you can wash corsets that have metal bones in them. You can hand wash them and then lay them flat to dry. You just can't leave them in water for a long time, because then it'll ruin, like your bones will rust. So this is where I am right now. I've gotten all of the pieces cut out and they are pinned. The coutil and the lining fabric are pinned together. And so tomorrow what I need to do, is try not to bleed on the white fabric, because it's a distinct possibility, is I need to go through and I need to flatline all of these pieces. I need to flatline all of these pieces, so I'm sewing the top and the bottom together with a long stitch length along all the edges, and then I'm treating each piece as one. And that is going to create the seam allowance so that I can sew them together and do the thing that I need to do for the corset. So that's the first step for tomorrow. It's almost midnight, apologies. So I need to do that for tomorrow and then start assembling the pieces. I think that's the next step. Let me look at the directions. Oh, I need to flat fill and then I need to edge finish everything. So I need to zigzag stitch across the edge of everything to make sure that they stay nice and they don't get gross and fray, because the coutil will fray and the cotton that I'm using will definitely fray. So I need to edge finish and flat line everything. And then honestly, if I get that done, I'm gonna be pretty stoked. The next step after that is to attach the bone casing. Sorry, the lighting in here is weird because Zach has a light set up. So flat fill, edge finish are my goals for tomorrow, and then bone casings, if I get those done, that's a bonus. If not, it's whatever. But I am lit tired, and so I'm gonna go to bed, and I will check in again tomorrow. Hello and happy Sunday. I wanted to check in. It's about 2:30-ish on Sunday. We had a late night gaming last night, and then today we put up Christmas decorations outside and the Christmas tree is all decorated. And so I wanted to show you what I'm doing for the flat lining, because I realized I don't think I explained that last night. So here's what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I am taking the lining fabric, which is the cotton coutil, and the fashion fabric, which is this plain white cotton, and you can't really tell the difference. I'm trying to see, yeah. See the texture on that is the cotton coutil, and then this is just plain white cotton, white on white. I know, super interesting to look at, but I'm taking these two pieces and I'm sewing them together. So I have one of each of these pieces and they are wrong sides together. For this fabric it doesn't matter because it's the same on both sides, but they're wrong sides together. So this is the right side of the lining, this is going to be against my body, and this is the right side of the fashion fabric that's going to be facing out. So they are wrong sides together, and I'm just going in and stitching, oh lord, white thread, white fabric. I'm stitching a scant 1/4 of an inch away from the edge on each of these pieces so that they are functionally one piece, instead of having two pieces that are pinned together and all wibbly wobbly on their own. So that's what I am doing. One of the reasons that I am making this as a wearable mock-up is I want to use this 1880s corset pattern for my 1880s steampunk Black Widow bustle dress, but I want to make that corset with a lining, an exterior lining, fashion fabric of red floral silk that was in my grandmother's stash that she got when she and my grandpa went to Singapore. And that fabric is irreplaceable. Like I can't get more of it. So I need to make like quadruply sure that I know what I'm doing with making this one from making the mock-up before I feel confident cutting into that. Cutting anxiety is real, especially when it's something like that. Like this is fabric that is, I will never find anything like it again. And it has like the sentimental, like it was my grandma's and she bought it with the intention of doing something with it and then never got to, so I'm gonna put it to good use. So there's that. So I'm gonna keep, I have one piece down and I have all of these to go, plus the two that I still have to redraw all the guidelines on. And I'm gonna hope that I can get them flatlined and edge stitched, well, at least flatlined without bleeding on them, because there are a lot of pins and it's me and I'm just not that coordinated. So hopefully we don't bleed on the white fabric.
I should have said that.
Hello, it is approximately 10 p.m. on Sunday night and I wanted to check in before I went to bed. I was successfully able to complete the two steps that I set as the goal for today. So all my pieces are laid out here on the table in the order that they will be assembled. That's a tip that I got from Costuming Drama. We go from back, all the side pieces to the center. This is where the busk is gonna go, and then all the way back to the lacing strip on the other side. And this is how the side that is facing up is the wrong side. So this is how I make sure I know I'm doing everything correctly. All my marks are on this side. So that's good. And what I have just decided is I only have enough white bias tape to do half of the corset for the bone casings. So I'm going to save the white bias tape, the double fold bias tape, to do the top and the bottom, hopefully. And I'm going to use this to do the bone casings, the blue, because my plan is that I'm going to floss where the bones are in a light blue as well. So that is what I'm going to use. It's the inside of the corset. So I know I said I wanted everything to be white and neutral, but it's the inside of the corset. It's going to be against my skin. No one's ever going to see it except you and me, so it's fine. It's fine. And if it bleeds, it's going to bleed onto the inside, which is, who cares? So I'm going to leave it there for tonight because I have to go back to work tomorrow, theoretically. Yeah. So plan tomorrow, after the tiny human goes to bed, is bone casings. If I can sew all the bone casings down, we're good. That's the plan. If I can get the bone casings done, that also gives me time to puzzle out the rest of the instructions, because I've never done this before, really, for realsies. For the mock-up, I just sewed all of the pieces together and folded down the seam allowances out and used those as boning channels. I didn't actually put boning in these boning channels. Yeah, so that's going to be a thing. I think, yeah, that's going to be my bedtime reading tonight, is going through and reading the pattern again to make sure I understand what's happening. So, reading the pattern, putting in bone casings, and that is where I will check in tomorrow. So, it's Wednesday night, and I lied. I didn't get the boning channels sewn in because someone refused to go to sleep last night and had congestion and coughing and was up all night and was home with us today and got a COVID test this afternoon, so we're all back in quarantine until the COVID test results come back. But before that happened, I changed my mind and I went back to Joann's. I had to buy, this is what I went in for. I needed new needles for my sewing machine because, as it turns out, I only have like 2 left, and that's you're supposed to change it after every project, and I'm working on like 4 projects at once, so I probably should have more needles to change out. So I went and got that, and while I was in the store, trimmings were buy 3 get 2 free. So I went ahead and I got more bias tape, and I got twill tape for the waist stay. I got 2 packages of that, so I have one for my for real corset as well. And this is more extra wide double fold bias tape. I'm just going to run this across the top and the bottom and do all the boning channels with it. So I have plenty of white to do all white for the corset, and I also, because it was also on sale, got some silk thread. I got red for my proper 1880s Black Widow corset, because I think I'm going to do that one in black, or maybe some fancy red silk. And then I got blue for this one, just because I like blue, and I think blue will be a nice contrast with the white. So I have silk thread to do that flossing. So I got those. I also got some cotton in a darker red and this same color blue and white, because I don't have any cotton thread. Most of my thread is the regular Coats & Clark poly blend polyester thread. That's what most of it is. So now I'm going to reorganize this mess, because I had to tear everything apart to start a commission, but now I have the space back to, I want to lay this out and sew the boning channels before I get started on that. But I don't know that that's going to happen tonight. We'll see what happens. We'll see how tired I am. Alright, so forgive the hot mess. I just wanted to check in and let you guys see what I have been working on. It is still Wednesday night. I stitched, you can't even see that, the white on white. All the boning channels have been stitched down, the bone casings, so that I can insert bones into this once it is assembled. And now what I am doing is I'm working on the right front of the corset, which gets this lovely little piece. This is the hook side of the flat front busk. There's also a spoon front busk for the 1880s, but this is going to be more universal for me for This is going to be more universal for me for costuming purposes. So we went the straight front busk. So I wanted to show you what I am doing. So I laid the busk out, and it says that this pattern calls for a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So there's a busk facing here. This is what's going to encase the busk, and these 2 pieces are right sides together. So the plain cotton white fabric is on the outside, and the coutil fabric is on the inside, and there's the boning channel on the bone casing on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch along this line, and I've marked little dashes where the hooks on the busk go. And because it's me and I have a habit of getting into the zone and forgetting what I'm doing, and just would potentially stitch all the way down and then be like, barnacles, I should have stopped and not stitched these closed because now the busk won't go in there. I have made myself stop and put a pin in each of the spaces where I need to stop sewing. So I know as I'm approaching the pin, I'm going to sew straight down, and then I'm going to stop there and back stitch, and then skip over this, and then back stitch, and start again, back stitch, skip over this, back stitch, start again. And it's going to take a little bit longer than, you know, just sewing a regular seam. But then the busk, I will press this seam open and then flip it over so that the right sides are out, and the busk will just slide nicely in there. So that is the plan. Success! You can see how it comes out there. And I haven't pressed this yet, but I just have the busk is in the seam allowance, and then the facing folds over the front, and then this is this is the front of the corset. So that goes there, because all of these pieces are right sides up, or wrong sides up. And then that will hook into the other side of the busk, which is going to involve me poking holes in things, which is this. And I think that is good enough for tonight. I've unplugged the iron already, so I'm gonna just leave this here. I'm gonna take these upstairs for some bedtime reading, and I'm gonna look at flossing patterns on Pinterest to see if I can find one that I like. All right, so quick check-in here. It is later in the day, and I have gotten both sides of the busk inserted, and the waist tape is inserted in both sides, and I'm in the process of sewing together the seams. And this part is actually, this part is not actually super complicated. You're basically just sewing a 5/8 of an inch seam. You're sewing the front and the side together, and the side back and the back together. And you double stitch them, which is for strength, because there's a lot of tension on those seams, so you want to make sure that they hold. So you double stitch them, you sew them together, stitch pairs, sets of 2, so the back and the side back, the side and the front, and then the front and the side, and so on. And then the lacing strips are still over here untouched, but I'm going to finish this first. I'm going to stitch these two together, and then I'm going to stitch these two together, and then that's it, except for the lacing strips. And the lacing strips are a separate set of instructions that I have to read over once again. So yeah, oh, and I have to attach the waist tape. In case you're wondering, this is basically because like the waist is the place where the corset is going to have the most strain, and the waist tape attaches at the front on either side, and then it attaches at the back, and it just distributes the tension across the waist a little bit more evenly across this reinforced waist tape. So that's what that is. And it looks like there are a couple of ways to insert it. One of which involves stitch which I'm not sure if I have. So we're gonna do some investigation. My goal this evening is to get all of these pieces sewn together and the waist tape done whatever is being done to. And then we will see where we go from there. Alright, so I'm wrapping it up for the night. I am done sewing the pieces together. I did just want to check in and show you how much structure this piece has. I've added 0 boning. All I've done is sew the pieces together, and it's the only like metal bit that's in here is the busk, and it's laying flat, like it's not doing anything. But you can see like it's standing up on its own. There's no padding in there. That's just the shaping of the corset, and this is the hip. So like this is a heavily structured garment, and you can see like it flares out here the back. It's a heavily structured garment. It's supposed to give you the fashionable silhouette of the time. This particular one is supposed to give you that hourglass figure and supplement what you don't have. So there's a huge amount of hip spring in this corset, and if you don't have enough to fill this out, the goal for a corset is that you have something that fits you well and comfortably, something that you can wear practically. But then the corset itself gives you a structured like exoskeleton to build the fashionable silhouette upon. So if you don't have enough to fill out the hip padding, then you stuff it with fluff like Winnie the Pooh. Like literally that's what you do. You put in hip pads underneath your corset to bulk it out. And that's how you make your waist look smaller, is if your bust is big due to all the ruffles and your hips are big due to the padding and the structure given by the corset or the hoop skirt or whatever. Like if your hips are huge and your bust is huge, then your waist looks a lot smaller. It's an optical illusion, and it's about proportion in the Victorian era. So like they wanted a certain proportionate difference between bust and waist and hip that was ideal, and it was achieved through artifice, through structure. It wasn't achieved through diet and exercise. It wasn't women removing ribs and altering their bodies. It was an illusion to create a fashionable silhouette, the look that you're going for through fashion. And this is my first time actually making a proper corset and not just like a bodice. And let me tell you, this cotton couture stuff is like, it's so much better than using interfacing or all the other stuff that I've been doing, because it's a lot stronger. It holds its shape. There's so much rigid structure to this, and it's only a single layer of the couture. Like I don't have any other kind of stiffener in here. There's no interfacing. It's just this super thin white cotton muslin and the couture, and it's like a pop-up tent on its own. And that's just, it's so good. I do also want to show you, I have pinned in the waist tape, and I have decided I'm not using the Stitch Witch, but what I'm going to do is the next step, and I'm not doing that tonight, I'm going to bed. The next step is we are top stitching down the seam allowances towards the back to form more bone casings. So there are going to be bones in each of these seams, and then we will move on from there. And like, again, this is the bust of the corset, and it's just like, it's not as dramatic as the hip because it doesn't need to be, because it's just providing support and a little bit of lift, but like, it's like a bra that's padded and has underwire in it, but there's no wire in it yet. It's just, it's awesome. It's awesome. I am honestly kind of sad that we have gone to the like force your body to make the fashionable shape, as opposed to provide the fashionable shape in a garment that does all of the structure and basically gives you armor against, you know, being seen. Also, Spanx are really hard to pee in, and I find them incredibly uncomfortable because I feel like a stuffed sausage, and they're not made of natural fibers, so they get really hot, or I get really hot in them. But anyway, I'm gonna unplug the iron and turn off the sewing machine and go to bed because I'm rambling. Happy Friday. It is 11. I've been working for like maybe an hour. We have Friday night is family movie night, so we did Marbles, the children's museum here did a like night with the elves at the museum, and you got like a pack of holiday activities that had s'mores and cookies to decorate and confetti, and you could make snowflakes with the elves, and it was really cute and we had a lot of fun, but we also made a giant mess, and the tiny human took a lot longer to go to sleep than normal because she was packed full of marshmallows and frosting. But I've been working, you can see it's together, and all of the, you can't see it because it's white, but all of the seam allowances are sewn down to form bone casings. So that's all done. It's puckered a little bit weirdly, but I'm not super worried about it. If I get annoyed with it, that's easy to pick out and fix later, but it's happened. I bled on it. It's fine because I can get it out, but I'm not pleased. I didn't even realize I was bleeding, to be perfectly honest. I poked myself with a pin, and that happens frequently. Like, at one point I had myself pinned to the corset. Like, I had gone through a layer of skin on my finger with the pin, and I didn't realize it until I pulled my finger away. And, like, I have such thick calluses on my fingers now from sewing that, like, I didn't even, like, process that had happened. So I didn't realize that I was bleeding until I looked down and saw the blood on the white fabric. Yeah, it was awesome. So I'm gonna finish sewing that together and use my own saliva to try to get it out, because that is the best way to dissolve the enzymes in your own blood, is using your own saliva. And if that doesn't work, I'll use hydrogen peroxide. But right now I need those stitch lines, and anything that I do is gonna make them go away. So I need to finish stitching it before I can do it too much. But be careful. Don't bleed on your white fabric. That's been like in the back of my head the whole time. Every time I've ever worked with straight white, I've bled on it. And it's awesome. But yeah, so I'm putting the lacing strips together, and then I am going to attach them to the corset and do another like dry run fitting. I'm just gonna baste them on, and then I will pull them off, and then I will bind the corset edges and the lacing strip edges, because they get bound separately, so that you can take the lacing strips off and attach them to, or add a greater seam allowance, because you can see like there's a bone here and a lacing strip here. These are where the eyelets are going to go, and there's another bone here, and this is supposed to have a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, but you can make that seam allowance as large or as small as you want. Obviously not beyond the bone, but you could have the seam allowance right up against the bone, should you need it, which, based on my fitting of the mock-up, I might. So I just want to be doubly sure that I'm making this so that it fits me in the best way possible, because I don't want it to be too big, because it defeats the purpose of it being a support garment, because it's not then offering the support, and I don't want it to be too small, because then I can't wear it. So we're gonna do the fitting that way, and I would like to be able to do that tonight. I don't think I'm gonna, because eyelets, but here we are. Anyway, yeah, corset's ready for boning, and eyelets or lacing strips and binding. Binding's gonna take a while, and then it's done, and we can actually move on to taking measurements and draping the bodice for Ariel, making this not be huge and weird. Anyway.